everybody. Good evening. It is the Yard Sign. Happy Monday to you, or happy day, whatever it may be, whenever, wherever you may be watching the show, whether it's on one of our social media platforms or on the audio podcast version of our show, which you can find over at the Tech Overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and Samsung podcast platforms. I'm your host, Jonny Torres. We've got a two-man show today, and so we'll introduce my co-host here in just a second. But first, let's go ahead and not waste any time. Jump right into today's topics. Epstein Pimp suicided. And that's right. Another person involved in Jeffrey Epstein's suicide issues. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. Another person involved in Jeffrey Epstein's human trafficking has suicided himself. For lack of a better term, in a French prison. We'll talk about that. Putin plays along, or at least that's what he wants you to believe. We'll give the latest on what's happening over on the border of Ukraine and Russia. Anibal has some updates on that. Also, the worst Olympics ever. And if you don't know what we're talking about, that's exactly the point. Nobody's watching. And we'll talk about why. And communism in Canada. That's it, everybody. You can say we are just about the only democracy left, I think, in the Western Hemisphere, as Canada continues to slide into communism under Justin Castro Trudeau. But before we get into all that, we have some breaking news. So we go to our UK correspondent, UK senior correspondent, Anibal David Cabrera. Anibal, what is our breaking news?
Nope. If I could actually have volume. Again, this is a thing that happens every single time. Hello, audience. It is with a heavy heart that we have to announce that Her Royal Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, by grace of God, the United Kingdom, the Great Britain, Northern Ireland, and the realms and territory the Queen has held, also the head of the Commonwealth and defender of the faith, has COVID. Yes, it is with great sorrow to hear that the bird has COVID. After 70 years on the throne, we've come to find out that even she can get sick, Johnny. I would have never thought this at all. We are all in mourning and hope for a quick and speedy recovery as the Queen continues to do her daily job, which is representing the people of the great United Kingdom, Commonwealth, and all the other things I said out loud.
I was going to say, what is her daily job?
I want to say that has something to do with, I don't know. I think that she has with a pelican, I think it is, or a flamingo.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's the wrong.
You trying to make an Alice in Wonderland reference?
I'm trying to. Also, I'm getting really annoyed that this is messing with my hair.
Oh my gosh! Look, that lady's outlasted a lot worse. I think the rest of her family is probably going to pass from COVID before she does.
She survived like the bombings of London, like air raids and everything else. So she's gone. She's taken a few hits. She keeps on ticking. I'm enjoying this actually because it proves the bigger point of all is that this is over. Like everyone's had COVID,
pretty much.
Or if you haven't had COVID yet, you had the shot and you're in a protected people, but. Of all the people to get COVID is the Queen, and she is able to beat it, then yeah, we're pretty much over this pandemic.
I can't even imagine what the health standards, the health protocols must have been around her up until now for her to get it this late in the game.
Well, I think one of the first ones was you had to be Caucasian, and from there it broke down into the Commonwealths and everything else. So again, it was quite scary. The moment I heard it, I had already heard it when you posted it on the group chat.
Yeah,
I clutched my pearls. I will say, we were very concerned, and I finally found out that I had something in common with Segar on Breaking Point, which is he's also a royalist.
Yeah, he's big on that. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's Johnny. I get why you don't like the royal family. You're not Southern, so it's a big deal. If you're Southern, you like the royal family. If not, I get it. I mean, do you even know who your monarch is?
No, because we didn't have a monarchy in my parents' home country, Colombia.
The reason why Jonathan doesn't know the monarch for northern Cuba, which is where he was raised, is King Philip. Actually, if you didn't know.
Had no idea.
Do you know the full title?
Nope.
So it is King Philip Pablo Alfonso de Toros de los Santos de Berba and Greece. I had no idea that he was also the Greece royalty.
Right.
So yeah, that
lasted about how long?
That's Jonathan. What, Greece?
No, whoever this king,
King Philip?
Yeah.
He's still king.
Of what? Of Miami?
Spain.
Of Spain?
Oy vey. So, people, as your royal correspondent,
We're from Colombia. We're not from Spain.
You are. What do you think Colombia was before it became Colombia?
Well, there were indigenous people there.
Oh my gosh, we're going to go there.
Are you questioning my indigenous heritage?
You're not that brown. So, right there.
That is true.
I'm going to question it a lot.
That is quite true. And I'm also 5'9".
I will say this.
Which is significantly taller than any of the indigenous people south of Mexico.
I think we're the only ones that can have this conversation out loud and not get canceled. I will say this: a lot of South American countries were a part of Spain before the conquistadors. So
Yep.
I would totally say that genetically you are probably more Spaniard than you are native.
Yeah, probably. Well, there's only 3 places where you find the Torres last name. One of them is Spain. 4 places: Spain, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and then here in the United States.
I'm not surprised about the Puerto Rico part.
I'm gonna keep quiet on that one, only because Hector's listening through Clubhouse. Speaking of Clubhouse, if you want to join the show,
bring it.
We are streaming live on Clubhouse right now. If you want to join the show, today would be the day to put your 2 cents into today's topics, because we are short a co-host. So we'd love to hear from you. Look up the yard sign or find me at Jonny Torres on Clubhouse, and just like you would any other Clubhouse room, you can raise your hand, and we will bring you into today's conversation as we begin to tackle today's topics.
Taco.
I know. I'm having all kinds of trouble speaking today.
Woo!
Let's go ahead and jump into tonight's first topic, which is Epstein's quote-unquote pimp suiciding himself. It was a friend of his that we now have come to learn was one of his human trafficking accessories. Much like Epstein himself, was found hung in a jail cell, I believe in France. And
yes.
And so, again, only adding more mystery, controversy to all of this, and somehow Ghislaine Maxwell still remains alive. Although I'm sure they
for now.
Yeah, there's much tighter security, I think, around Ghislaine Maxwell, even though by the sounds of it, I don't think, and this is where it gets real conspiratorial, I don't think the names are ever going to get out. Prince Andrew, huge settlement with the young woman who had accused him
Correct.
of sexual assault, and so that story is going away. And Ghislaine is kind of like the final key, unless they somehow are able to access computer records and other files and stuff that they might have had on people.
The FBI has that information. I don't think it's ever going to get released unless someone's already done a document dump request, a FISA request. So I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I will say I'm shocked that more of this information hasn't happened. Hasn't been released more. They were able, with the trial, nip it all in the bud. They were able to come to a conclusion there. With Prince Andrew, there was a settlement, and that's going to get closed there also. But I want to know the names. That should all be public. That's the only way this thing stops, is if the FBI has a leak.
Right.
And is able to release that information to the public, and until that happens, I don't think anything.
But that's the problem, and this is where it saddens me to have to admit this, but this is where you come to realize that the United States in 2022 is no better than some of these other countries that are more oppressive, that have, again, that are not as free, that are not as, by whatever measure you want to say that America is better than, because the elite, the powerful, the wealthy still rule this country. And in a situation like this, like with the Kennedys, like with the Clintons, there are things that are never going to see the light of day.
Correct.
Because of their power, because of their wealth.
Probably in our lifetime. Things do eventually get released for information like that. The presidents have the determination, and you're allowed to do that. I don't think it'll be in our lifetime. Maybe
our government has practically admitted that there are aliens before we have actually found out who killed John F. Kennedy.
Well, allegedly, there are aliens. Do you want to get us canceled?
I know there are aliens.
They're not aliens.
There are aliens.
They're not aliens.
Sure.
this is not that kind of show. This you want to start another show, then we can talk about that. But we're not talking about aliens.
So here's the kind of the lead, or at least the summary from CNN, which is French modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel, longtime associate of the late disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, has been found dead in his prison cell. Spokesperson for the Paris prosecutor's office said. Again, very similar circumstances. The cameras apparently stopped working.
Okay, there's a difference when it comes, because France is so more about individual freedom. They actually don't put cameras into the cells themselves, so like you cannot see what's happening inside cells, but you are able to see the walkway and everything else. So allegedly, there was no one that went in and killed him. Allegedly, these things are coming around all over. This is a very high-profile prison in France. A lot of the high-profile criminals and things like that in France are staying at this Parisian hotel. It's actually 4 stars. I did not know that. And so, with that kind of bed turnover, I'm not surprised. This is not surprising whatsoever. Because honestly, you're telling me it's this bad that you have this kind of information.
Well, and the thing is that the guy had apparently tried to commit suicide a number of times before, and yet again they discovered him by hanging himself with sheets. It's you know, and how obvious is that at this point? You know, it's like, I know that that's a popular way for them to do it.
First of all, the spread on this was probably nothing, because everyone knew it was going to happen.
Right.
So the betting houses of DraftKings actually had a forum. No, I'm kidding. With this, I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised whatsoever. I think this was expected, especially for people under this position. I'm surprised that he lasted as long as he did.
Yep.
The fact that she's still alive, I'm shocked that she's still alive. And again, she might have dirt on someone, or she might have better security, but I'm really surprised. I wouldn't be surprised in the future if something happens to her.
Well, and like you said, the fact that during the trial they didn't try to release that information, I mean, goes to show you again, like the powers that be, you know, basically controlling that situation there, because that would have been the time for that information to come out. Now, God knows how long it's going to be before that information comes out, if ever.
There are tapes. There are tapes of people walking in and out of the Epstein mansion in New York City. Like, everyone that ever walked into that building should be questioned.
Yeah.
Everyone. If you were on a plane with him, you should be questioned. If you went to the island, you should be flogged. I mean, these are just facts that need to happen. And now there's no more legal recourse whatsoever, because, again, the trial here in the States is over. The one person that was willing to stand to get in front of it. And again, the only reason why she was able to is because there was a photo of her and Prince Andrew, like, about to have a massage,
right?
And that became very popular. And now with the final one dead, I don't know what's going to happen. Again,
he claims he doesn't sweat. Jesus,
it's weird.
Well, it turns out that Brunel, who headed several modeling agencies, he was charged recently with sexual harassment and the rape of at least one minor over the age of 15 back in December of 2020. Earlier that month, he had been detained at Charles de Gaulle, and he was preparing to take a flight to Senegal. I'm sure that was a one-way flight.
Oh, definitely.
Prosecutors still have declined to specify how many alleged victims there were over that age. So, I mean, the guy deserved
under that age. Someone said there was reports that he had provided 2 13-year-old girls.
Well, they're specifically talking about Brunel here. Oh, you're saying that
he provided.
Right.
And so again, I'm not saddened by what has happened.
No.
But I'm also very upset that we are not going to hear more, because again, if it couldn't have been just these 3 people.
No, of course not.
There had to have been, and the money and the organization, there are dozens of people involved in this. And the fact that they're going to get away with it is very upsetting.
Yeah. All right. So, again, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell continues to be on suicide watch.
She continues to breathe.
Unfortunately, in some cases.
Wow.
I mean, at least until she speaks. And look, at this point, that's, I think, the only thing keeping her alive, or maybe the one thing that may cause her, you know.
Where's Barbara Wawa in her interview right now in 60 Minutes? Yeah. I want to see an interview.
Or Oprah or somebody.
Oprah ain't gonna do it.
You don't think Oprah would do it?
No, she just did the whole.
Gail would do it.
Gail will do it, because Gail's about to lose her job.
Well, she doesn't have Oprah to protect her anymore.
I don't think she ever had. I think NBC. What TV show is she on?
Well, she's on CBS this morning.
So CBS has been reported that they're going to fire her. And like,
really?
Oh yeah. Because again, why wouldn't you want to fire a colored woman?
Oh, okay. On that note, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic. Before we do that, just want to appreciate you again for watching, whether it be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or any of our audio social media platforms, audio podcast platforms. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and you can also join us and join in on the conversation over at Clubhouse. We are broadcasting live on Clubhouse, and thanks to everybody there listening. And if you want to chime in, again, all you got to do in Clubhouse is raise your hand, and we'll go ahead and bring you into the conversation just like you'd call into any radio show. Let's move on to our second topic, which is Putin plays along. Now, this, of course, it could be slightly outdated at this point because situations in Ukraine is moving so quickly. But it seemed like his agreement to meet with Macron and Biden about this situation seemed to be moving in a positive direction. I still maintain to a certain extent that the U.S., for Biden's sake, is trying to kind of egg this on. He's looking for a win. Now, whether that's a diplomatic win or a military win where, we end up going to war, I mean, obviously that's going to come down to where, really, I think Biden and Putin. But I thought, hey, is this a bluff? Where Putin is agreeing to meet with Macron and Biden, just another distraction? Or is this potentially maybe an actual effort to get this going back in the right direction? I don't see a situation where Putin backs off here. What do you think?
We talked about this last week, and we said it was a 50-50 chance that either they were going to hold the line or they were going to move forward. Yeah. And I think we're now seeing the direction that they wanted to. Before, we did not see anything in the media, the Russian media, talking about getting ready to organize, getting ready to invade, everything else. In the last 5 hours, that's all changed. Yep. Putin had almost a multi-hour speech to the Russian people, trying to convince them or laying the groundworks of what they're going to do in regards of invasion. And at that time, Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday recognized the independent two separatist regions of Ukraine, the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic, which are the two border areas on the eastern front between Ukraine and Russia. That is a huge red line that just got crossed. I don't know where we're going to go from here, because really, now that he's recognized it, and something that I did not know is that Russia has actually fast-tracked 1 million citizens in that region to become dual citizens of Russia. Like, on purpose. This has been something that he's been working on for quite some time.
Well, it's a PR stunt.
Completely PR stunt. So now he can say, look, we're going in to protect the Russian people.
Well, I did the same thing with Crimea, which is basically that you have a group of people there saying that they want this, when the actual population at large wants no part of this. And somebody did a really great breakdown of why Ukraine is so valuable in this situation that's been going around on viral on Facebook. And it's pretty incredible, especially given the natural resources available in the Ukraine, how important Ukraine is to that region. Obviously, they have a lot to offer the EU. But like you said, for obvious reasons, that's probably never going to be a reality for them. According to even the Washington Post, Putin orders Russian forces into separatist regions in the Ukraine. So he's already making inroads into the country. And again, at what point does he cross the line?
I think the line's been crossed. I mean, again, we've seen this happen already once with the annexation of Crimea. And we appeased him when it came to the Minsk Accords. The Minsk Accord. Minsk or Minsk? Minsk. Accords that were back in 2014 during the first situation that occurred with Crimea, and we're going to appease him again. This speaks Neville Chamberlain all over when he went to Germany in the early 1940s and said that he was going to get peace with Germany, and this is before they invaded Poland. So I don't know how much more do people need to understand that appeasement does not work. Now, the argument is going to have, if Russia invades Ukraine, does the United States have an obligation to militarily assist with repelling the Russians? I'm 50-50 on this. I don't know how you think about this, Jonny, and we might need to pull Hector if he's in what's the whole thing called?
In Clubhouse.
In the Clubhouse,
Yep.
and see what he wants to talk, what he thinks, because I'm 50-50. I think you nip this in the bud by pushing back Russia aggression, so we don't have to deal with this for the next 10 years, and with a soft, somewhat push with NATO as the front, not the U.S. as the front.
But do we end up in a military standoff with boots on the ground in that region for the next 10 years?
If you think that Russia is going to continue to move in the direction that he is, which is taking over Ukraine completely because it's strategic, military, and economically viable for him, this is pushing us back to the 19 where the world was in the 1930s, which was the only way you were able to survive was by conquering and conquering different parts of the world. And so that would be where you would get your resources from. We haven't been like that in 70, 80 years, and we're getting there very quickly.
Well, because again, you see China doing it, and now you see Russia doing it, because again, I think they realize that if they don't do something quick, given the demographics and where they're headed, the loss of population, the loss of natural resources, I think they're realizing that this is going to be the only way that they do continue to survive for another century.
Correct. I really do feel that Ukraine has a very young population. It has a very robust economy. It has a lot of natural resources. It's Europe version of the breadbasket. Yeah. And it also allows for Russia to not feel so it almost covers Russia's underbelly when it comes to military invasions, because that's happened before. Yeah. It happened with Napoleon. It happened with Germany, and they don't feel comfortable. The problem is, by Russia doing this, it makes all the other NATO countries hella uncomfortable. Yep. And again, when you have Finland and Finland and Sweden rushing to send aid and resources to Ukraine, they want to hold the line. And again, you have to punch Putin in the face, and I don't think the current president knows how to do that. And that's the real problem.
Well, and again, are we finding ourselves in a situation where we are now going to go into military action with another nuclear superpower?
Russia doesn't think the U.S. will do it. I don't know if Biden will do it, because Biden has his good days and his bad days, and I don't know where that's going to look like.
And are the Democrats desperate enough to pull something like this?
Yes, of course,
to swing the midterms and to swing his reelection?
Of course they are. They look like putts during the Afghanistan withdrawal, and they looked horrible. And now that they have another opportunity to look somewhat competent when it comes to military actions, do you think the Democrats will go forward with it?
Well, we're going to go over to Hector here in a second. But what's interesting is kind of how the tables have turned, because you have your anti-Trump folks like Rick Wilson and your progressives and all these who actually want Biden to engage Putin. And then you've got your Republicans who are saying, hey, let's not get involved in this. This isn't our problem. Let's let this kind of play out and see what happens, on the Republican side and on the conservative side.
I'm shocked.
It's so weird. It's an alternate universe.
I would have thought, as a Republican and as a conservative, we're normally we're ready for war. Sure. Let's do this. There's a reason why you have a military budget. Let's use it. Yeah. But that's normally not towards another superpower. And I don't consider Russia a superpower. I consider a government that has nuclear weapons, and that right there becomes its own issue, because again, the U.S. and Russia cannot go face to face. And are we sparking another Cold War?
Well, and see, I'm never concerned about North Korea. I know everybody's concerned about North Korea. I'm not concerned about North Korea. They can't get a missile outside of their own country's boundaries, okay?
North Korea is the petty child in the supermarket, having a hissy fit.
Now, Russia can still send people to space and and possibly the moon. I mean, we know that because they've been giving us rides, to the space station, for the last, 20 years.
Spending I think it's a few million, maybe it is $100 million per flight. I have no idea, but I know that we've been doing that. Again, it's Hector. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, guys? My thoughts. Let me first piggyback on what Anibal was saying about nuclear weapons. This has to be a situation that has to be free of partisanship, because the deal is that the Russians do have the second largest nuclear arsenal in the world, first, and then second, if Putin is able to get away with, occupying the two quote unquote People's Republics of Donetsk and Luhansk, that will send out a precedent for any other autocratic or dictatorial regime to go ahead and conquer what they want, and the PRC could take over Taiwan. Mm-hmm. That here in our hemisphere, the Venezuelans could invade Guyana because they've had a claim for the western half of Guyana for over 200 years. So it is our problem because it will be a global problem, not just with the Russians, but with the allies of the Russian Federation. The thing with Rick Wilson.
Yeah, Hector, I agree with your position that this causes a precedence if the Biden administration doesn't push back on what's happening in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And I get it. Americans don't like the idea of going into another war. I don't think it's going to be. Again, this should never have gotten to this point. The reason why we're here is because we have a weak person. We have a weak person in the White House, which allows people to say, "Okay, let me see if I can get away with something."
Right.
Because the moment you get away, and this happened with Obama, with Crimea in 2014. If we would have done, and so now, if Russia invades and goes after these two break off provinces, and there has to be ramifications, sanctions, and everything.
But the thing is this too, Anibal. I mean, you have to think about the solemnity and the seriousness of putting America's best and brightest in the harm's way. It's been said by every single president that served. I'm sure even Donald Trump would say this. The most solemn responsibility of an American president is to send its best and brightest to do, the bidding of the nation and its government. So that's I'm not trying to defend, Obama or Biden or really anybody, but it's a very heavy burden to deal with. Because guess what? It doesn't matter where we're fighting, who we're fighting. Unfortunately, some Americans are gonna die in combat, and it's that president that has to stand there at Dover Andrews Air Force Base in Delaware, salute the captives coming out of the aircraft. He's the one. Donald Trump was especially one that had to try to console and grab the family members of the deceased by the hand. So I'm not trying to defend Obama or Biden, but for any president, the most solemn and serious responsibility is sending Americans overseas to fight and do the country's bidding.
And again, us getting involved in this now, where it's only one major, it's the Ukrainians versus the Russian separatists, is one thing. I think if we don't get into this now and we don't get involved in this now, you're going to have huge ramifications, because Russia won't stop until Russia feels comfortable, and Russia will not feel comfortable until it meets what is the river that separates Ukraine? The
Dnieper River.
The Dnieper River.
It's called the Dnieper.
Yeah, that's a much more understandable, defensible border that Russia's willing to pull. But that means taking over half of Ukraine. And I don't know what the world would look like if it does that.
But the thing is, Putin already communicated out to the world. His intent, it's not going to stop in Ukraine.
Correct.
It's going to stop with the reestablishment of the Eastern Bloc and,
he wants Latvia, he wants Lithuania, he wants Belarus, he wants Moldova, he wants all of those things.
He already has Belarus. Yep. He already has Moldova. But as I've been saying this for a while, if the Russians get within 100 or 200 miles of Ukraine's western border with Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, or Romania, one or more of those countries, they're going to try to make an Article 5 claim of the NATO treaty, which says an attack on one is an attack on all.
Yeah.
And that's what we, by
when it comes to Poland. Poland will scream bloody hell at the EU meeting if Russia gets any closer to them.
Absolutely. And the thing is with Article 5, when literally, that's how we got into Afghanistan, guys. Mm-hmm. That's how Operation Enduring Freedom, was that's where it legally based itself on.
I
The United States went to NATO in 2001.
So then tell me what your thoughts are with the fact that I would have thought there would have been more pushback with the European Union in regards to Ukraine than I have seen. The only country that is pushing back is Germany, and that's because they got the sweet oil deal from Russia. But Biden's already said if the Russians invade, that's going to get pulled off the table. So does it mean that we now have to supply Germany with natural gas?
We'll be doing Texas and Oklahoma solid if we're having to supply natural gas to Germany, and and all of Western Europe and Central Europe. We'll be doing all those oil states. We'll be making all those energy states, including Wyoming and Montana, parts of the Dakotas. We'll be all doing them a solid because that gas, if the Europeans need it, we're going to have to provide it for them. Because there's no other country in the Western Hemisphere that provides as much energy
consistent
as the United States.
Correct.
It's a proven. The Canadians probably could help out too, but we overshadow the Canadians on the energy market worldwide.
Well, we'll be talking about the People's Republic of Canada later on in today's show.
Yeah, the new PRC, I guess. But yeah, guys. I mean, with the Ukraine. With these new developments, it's not surprising. This is Vladimir Putin trying to cement his legacy and preserve his regime, which, by the way, I don't think that's ever really designated that's anymore. He may look great, thanks to plastic surgery, but, he's 69 years old, and age is something that, doesn't compromise whether you're rich or poor or whatever condition you are. He's trying to cement his legacy.
Now we're losing your signal a little bit, Hector. Hang in there, and we'll
bring
you back in just a little bit. See if you can work on maybe get into a better spot there. The thing is that we're already, thanks to this administration, we're obviously already at a place of terrible inflation, in addition to the legitimate corporate greed that's going on in regards to prices increasing on products and services. Why are you looking at me that way?
I didn't say anything.
You didn't need to say anything.
Why are you automatically questioning what I'm saying?
Because I see you over there cringing at what I'm saying.
Was there a camera on me when you said something?
No, I don't need a camera. I'm looking right across at you.
I'm getting a little offensive right now. But you want to? Oh, now there's a camera on me. So do you want to repeat what you said, and then I'll try to make another facial expression that will better correlate to your feelings?
So I'm saying that it's bad enough that under this administration we're already seeing record inflation, in addition to the corporate greed happening with companies intentionally raising their prices on goods and services under the guise of inflation, to additionally screw over the American consumer.
Do you have evidence to prove that these corporations are intentionally raising their prices?
Yeah, they've actually said it.
They've actually said
that they're raising their prices
for what?
Not just because of inflation, but because they can.
Because of costs that are increasing because of inflation and because of what's happening.
No, they're getting record profits. They're making record profits at a time when we're coming off a pandemic, and the average American continues to struggle out there financially.
I don't disagree that the average American is continuing to struggle, but I also know that what used to cost $1,500 to ship a container from across the ocean now costs $25,000. Like, that's a huge amount of markup.
But the markup.
If you want that couch from IKEA that still needs to get here, who's paying that cost?
But the markup is far more than the inflation. They're using inflation as the excuse to mark it up. If you think inflation's at 15%, they're marking it up 30%.
Because other things are costing more. Labor is costing more.
They're making record profits in Anibal.
What company are you talking about that you can show that this is happening to?
All right, I will get you those. Okay. I don't have them in front of me, but I will get you those.
Okay.
All right, but anyways,
this same argument occurred on Breaking Point, by the way.
No, of course,
because Crystal Ball will make these claims, and then Segar will just turn around because his face can't hide of like his upsetness of this conversation. Again, I don't disagree that some companies are taking advantage, and if they are, and if you know that they are, I would advise you to call Ashley Moody in Florida, because then she's able to actually provide the legal ramifications for a company.
Not price gouging.
Oh no, it's not price gouging. If it's not price gouging, then it's probably because inflation is increasing, which is also increasing the cost of more goods and products.
Price gouging is taking advantage of a particular situation, and raising the prices, let's say, of gas in the middle of a national crisis.
So then you're saying,
or a state emergency.
But you're not willing to say the companies are price gouging in their situations now because of inflation.
It's not price gouging. What I'm saying is that they're using inflation as a leverage to make record profits. It's not. They're not simply raising the prices to cover the cost of inflation.
I think it's a combination of all the above.
Yeah, their corporate greed being one of them.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Anyways. Thank you everybody for watching The Yard Sign. Thank you to everybody hanging out on Clubhouse. You can find us on Clubhouse by searching The Yard Sign, or you can follow me at Jonny Torres. We've got Hector hanging out with us there on Clubhouse, and you can join us too if you'd like to. Of course, we opened the show talking about Epstein, Putin, and now the worst ever Olympics.
Ever.
And again, a lot of this comes at the hands of, even going back to the Summer Olympics. The opening ceremony was amazing. I remember that for the Summer Olympics. Does anybody even remember what this Winter Olympics opening ceremony was like? No, because nobody watched it. And we just happened to be watching it at home and caught the figure skating part, which happened to be, I guess, the part of, these Winter Olympics that everybody's kind of been looking forward to because of controversy surrounding the Russian skater that's 15 years old, accused of doping, which is why none of the Russians should have been allowed to compete.
None of them. Because
the whole Russian contingency was accused of doping. The country had a doping program in place for all of these athletes.
Literally a doping program.
And it shows you again how corrupt the IOC is. It's like they could have put their foot down and set the precedent that we're not going to tolerate doping at any level. But no, they created this Russian Olympic Committee as, lipstick on a pig, so that the Russian athletes who were accused of doping could still compete. Mm-hmm. And then they're shocked when the 15-year-old crushes under the pressure of not only media scrutiny, but obviously the controversy that's going around because of her doping.
It was a mess. And it was such a mess that it was almost like a car crash occurring in front of you in slow motion that you could not look away.
Yeah.
So again, I think she had competed in the team competition. And when they were getting their medals or they're getting their points, it comes out that she failed the drug test that occurred in December or January or December or November of last year. And because the Russians never thought to fast track, which usually occurs when you are on the Olympic team, they never fast tracked her testing. So it came out in the middle of the competition that she had failed the test. Now, every Olympic and non-Olympic skater in the US knows the moment you get flagged for doping, and then you have to do the test again, and then it proves it yes or no, you're out of the game. You can no longer compete in U.S. figure skating if you have any form
unless you're Russian.
But that's the thing. That's
white.
That's the U.S. That's the...
Yeah. Look, we lost an amazing track star, and, she admittedly said that, yeah, you know what? I'd lost a family member. I think it was her father or grandfather. It was her mother. And she admitted to have used marijuana. Not really performance enhancing, in my opinion, especially if you're a track star. They, of course, zero tolerance in that situation. And
zero tolerance was because she wasn't 15 years old. And I agree with everything you're saying that what they did was incorrect.
Why should the age make any difference?
Because I know. Evidently.
When you've got 12 and 13-year-olds competing on the gymnastics side.
Yeah, but that's the Summer Olympics. This is the Winter Olympics. And technically, oh my gosh, everyone's giving me dirty looks here. Technically, you're considered a protective person in regards to figure skating as a 15-year-old in competition. Now, I think that's complete BS, and I think that's not how it should be. Because the reason why they let her compete was that she was a protective person, and it would cause more damage if you didn't let her compete after she tested positive than if you let her compete. And then we all realize when you try to do something nice, the world slaps you in the face with a plastic dildo, and you see her completely collapse in live TV, and it was the best worst thing ever. You're like, we purposely watched also. We're like, okay, let's see what this girl who's 15 years old that evidently can do like 15 quad flips in the air at one time.
I'm telling you, the planets aligned because I have watched zero.
We watched zero
of the Winter Olympics.
Zero.
And I just happened to put it on. And right there, sure enough, it just started the figure skating portion of the Winter Olympics. It was a beautiful thing.
It was amazing. So she starts her routine. I think she hits the first one right. And then as soon as she hits it, she falls. And you can hear the gasp in the room. And again,
and then continues to fall.
And then I think she does it 3 times.
Yep.
And then, so you're like, oh, this is amazing. And the U.S. news people that are doing the correspondence and the commentary are, what are their names? They do the
real commentary, not Johnny Weir.
No, yes, it is Johnny Weir.
Oh, okay.
So Johnny Weir and the other girl, that they are figure skaters. They've won medals in the past.
Yeah.
They were brutally honest the whole time. Like, look, I get it, but she shouldn't have been on the ice to begin with. Like, that's like, she should not be on the ice.
Which kudos to them, because in a time where the truth will get you canceled and the truth will get you fired.
Yeah.
They were calling it like they saw it, on especially with this Russia stuff.
Yeah.
They were like, they don't belong on the ice in the first place.
And it was palpable. You can see. So she gets off the ice. She starts crying into her boss, into her
mafia
coaches.
boss.
I know, into her coach's hands. And the coach is speaking Russian. And the guy starts translating. Johnny starts translating into Russian. He's like, "Oh, she's calling her out. Why did you fall? What happened? Why are you overstressed?" Like, if no one knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, the world knows that this 15-year-old girl was the center of the universe for
collapsed.
3 minutes, who completely failed because she's 15 years old.
Right.
I mean, her family's probably in a dungeon somewhere being held hostage.
Of course.
And just waiting for the Russians to see if she's going to medal. And that was the bigger thing. They said if she medals, they won't give her medal. So if she gets gold, you're just going to give us silver and bronze? This is insane.
Right.
And so everyone's just watching to see this train
Well,
wreck.
and then what's crazy was kind of like the dominoes that fell after that, like in a weird way. You had you had the gold winner, which she was over the moon, Russian. And then you had the girl that won silver pissed off because she didn't win a gold. And so there was just all this kind of really weird. Then you had the Japanese girl who won the bronze.
Who doesn't know what to do.
Who like has this meltdown, and you don't know if she's happy or sad or both, or, until like minutes later where you can finally start to see her smile. But it was drama. Like it could not have been scripted any better than what happened there towards the end of that competition there. The other thing that has pissed me off about this Olympics has been, because I think there are 2 of them, athletes. One of them, which I believe was a figure skater, and the other one, which was a freestyle skier, who renounced their American citizenships to compete for China.
Yes.
And never have I been more pissed off at an Olympics than seeing something like that, especially given what we know about today's China.
And they didn't medal. I don't
know.
The first girl,
freestyle skier did.
No, the female.
The female freestyle skier did.
One of them did not.
The figure skater did not.
Figure skater did not.
She choked.
She fell also.
Yeah, she choked big time.
I feel that these people shouldn't be allowed back in the country.
Yeah.
I truly feel that they shouldn't be. They should be ostracized, because this is a big deal. This isn't.
She's like, well, her mom, she grew up going to China, and her mom was, from China and all. I don't care.
I don't care. You speak English. You know what McDonald's food actually tastes like.
She sounds like a Valley girl.
Oh my gosh. And she wants to go to Yale or something. She wants to go back to the East Coast for schooling. No.
Which they won't admit her because she's Asian.
No.
She'll get discriminated against because she's Asian. Because she's Chinese now.
I'm sorry. Your perfect score does not allow you to get into Harvard. Right. I will say this. Tara and Jonny were the best commentaries, because, and I want to go back into this, because normally these are very scripted events. You see them sit down to get their scores. You see them cry when they don't make it. And then you see them walk back. The cameraman was literally following her like it was TMZ. because they knew
That's what
it
it
was
felt
going to be good TV.
like.
That's what
It felt
what I
like
thought.
reality TV.
I truly thought, like, did I get teleported to reality TV? This is amazing.
I was waiting for Andy from Bravo, like, to come out, and like start interviewing like the Russian girl afterwards.
I was waiting for
with
a
like
chair.
a martini or something.
I was waiting for a
and-
chair to fly in the background with the real housewives of Potomac.
Oh my god!
trying
Because
to have it.
again, there was just so much going on, like all at the same time. It was just such a strange ending. And then you had the girl who was pissed off that didn't win the gold because she had not won a gold at all. She was the only member of the figure skating team that did not have a gold, refusing to go onto the podium to get her silver.
Oh, and why is that? It's because the Russians, who had this chica on their team that was doping a day before, win the group medal gold and cheat the Americans out of a gold, and they had to go to silver. So of course I would be upset. But again, that room was so tense, and people are crying for no reason. I'm like, I cannot tell if they're crying because what happened to her, or they're crying that they got their medal, or there's just an Asian girl in the corner just crying, waiting for like some horror movie to come out of town. I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, I couldn't stop watching.
I
couldn't stop watching.
I thought somebody did something to this Japanese girl because she was just like having a full blown meltdown. And I'm like, she podiumed, and I'm like, why is she like sobbing in the corner?
I think it's because it was so tense. I think there was so much pressure in the room because again, if she would have done if the original Russian chick would have done what she was planning to do, she would have podiumed. And then you have a scandal like no other.
Right.
And again, the whole time that when she's collapsing, you literally see a 15-year-old girl's life fall apart on national television. And Johnny Wiener is like, you know what? I feel weird. I feel really bad for her.
Whoa, he's gay. Just be careful.
My issue, the thing is I can never think of that man and not think of the Derby with
the Kentucky Derby.
Oh, with the horses. I can never not think of that. But I'll say this: every time he was like, you know what? I feel really bad for her, but she shouldn't be here to begin with.
Well, because they know the emotions. They've been doing this for so long. They know the emotions, especially at that age, that comes with competing at that level. And for you to have no one to go to after having the most catastrophic performance of your life.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's traumatizing.
I don't want to say this, but I will say this, and my wife hates this phrase, but the moment she fell and she's just sitting there waiting for her scores, and the scores go on, and she realizes she missed it, and she just starts crying. I'm in my back of my mind, like, emotional damage. That was like the organization did not want to harm her, so they let her ski, and now they've caused more damage than anyone could have imagined. The girl is not even going to be allowed back in Russia. She's probably going to be somewhere in Siberia by the end of the week. What else is there to do?
Sure. Why would you go back?
Her family's...
She's an embarrassment to the country.
I will say this. Her family's probably already on the front lines of Ukraine, just waiting to be the first line of defense there.
Oh, my God.
It's rough in the streets to be a communist country. Talking about communist countries.
So it's just all around. There's just been disappointment. It's been disappointment to watch these Olympics, and honestly, the time difference and all that just also takes a lot out of it, because nobody's going to wake up in the middle of the night to watch bobsledding, and even if it is the Jamaican team again.
Did you see the Germans?
No.
The two team, the bobsled team, the German guy in the back like slips and falls, and the guy in the front still gets in, and halfway he realizes his partner never made it onto the bobsled. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah. So it's just a sled?
Yeah,
no bob?
I really do think people of African descent in the Winter Olympics, it's always weird. But you know what? They make really good runners and skiers.
What I did love, actually, the one highlight was I did get to watch a little bit of the bobsledding, women's bobsled. Mm-hmm. Or no, it was the solo sled. Mm-hmm. And it was
That's dangerous.
Yeah. But there was this woman who had left from Germany, and I think tried to get on the Canadian team or something. Something didn't go right in Canada, and then came to the United States and joined the United States team and won the gold.
Yeah. And so it is kind of a reverse hypocrite kind of situation where
Yeah.
you, as an American, you get upset when Americans go to other countries, but other countries coming here, it's happened our entire lives. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because Americans always get the best and the brightest. So it doesn't matter with that when it comes to that side. But no, I mean, they're all training here anyways.
Yeah.
Like the majority of the Olympic team members around the world train in the United States because we have the best facilities and we're able to do everything we need to do here.
Right.
And you won't get killed if you don't score correctly.
Yeah. All right, we're going to jump into our final topic here, but before we do so, don't forget you can subscribe to the audio version of our podcast, which you can listen to on demand whenever, wherever you'd like to do so, over at the Tech Overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and Samsung podcast platforms. And so, I mean, it's literally as easy as searching for the Yard Sign podcast on Google, and it's going to come up everywhere. If you'd like the video version to see our beautiful faces, you can find that on Facebook and YouTube, as well as our Twitter account. So at the Yard Sign on Twitter, if you want to follow us there, you can also get the show live, and you can see the previous video versions of that there as well. So there's almost quite literally nowhere on the internet where you will not find the show. We actually moved up 4 spots in the rankings this week. We're now number 145 in the government-based podcasts in the United States.
I would love for us, like, our goal should be to get to like under 100. I think that would be
amazing.
Awesome.
So,
I don't know. Do you think it should be more you and me, or should
we'll see. We'll see. Last week's episode doing very well.
Oh, that's good.
So props to our buddy Nate Ginter, who's excited to come back at some point.
Nice.
And then of course our buddy Joe Wicker, just having to take care of some business, but we'll have him back on and get the gang back together soon enough.
It's difficult to get white people to stay. I will say it's become quite difficult to get for others to become the minority on this show. I mean, am I lying?
Well, no, but now if we could just get you to show up on time, then we'd be headed in the right direction.
I have no comments on that ethnic
Stereotype?
response.
Yeah,
I was here
right.
before the show started.
Yeah, barely. All right, everybody. We're going to jump into our final topic here, which is definitely a sad one. I've said on the show before, I've kind of admired the protesting efforts that we've seen throughout Europe, especially, France and the UK, and even in Australia, New Zealand, like some of the, places where we've seen major outcries of freedom in regards to vaccine mandates. And again, I'm not against the vaccine. If you want to get the vaccine, go ahead and get the vaccine. And likewise, if you don't want to get the vaccine, do what you want to do. This is about choices. And Democrats in the midterms are going to pin us as anti-vaxxers, which is not the case. It's about having personal choices when it comes to your medical decisions. And the trucker convoy in Canada was incredibly inspiring, continues to be incredibly inspiring. But we, in these moments of crisis is when leaders reveal themselves. We saw what Obama did, and obviously what his right-hand man, Rahm Emanuel said, you never let a crisis go to waste. And we see that in Justin Trudeau, as he has basically implemented has asked for authoritarian powers to freeze bank accounts, seize funds. He's doxing people, arresting people who are peacefully protesting in Ottawa, in Canada, for their rights to make their own medical decisions. So we are seeing the rise of a communist, and it's funny because, there's been this meme that's been going around for a long time about how Justin Trudeau, may be the illegitimate son of Fidel Castro. And you look at the pictures, and I don't know if they've been photoshopped or not, but they do look remarkably similar. And it's well known that his parents had a relationship with Fidel Castro, and specifically his mother.
A friendship.
Okay, that's fine. But again,
see, we were going in such a good, legitimate direction talking about this topic.
And I'm not validating. It's a meme. I'm not validating it. I'm just saying that's a meme.
The illegitimate child basis. I mean,
but then this interview surfaces where they ask him, about, who does he admire most in regards to, their leadership of a government, or I think is what type of government he admires the most or something like that. And he says the dictatorship. Plain out. He just says it. He's just like, he goes, I love China's dictatorship. He goes, it's efficient. It gets things done. Nothing gets in the way. And here we are seeing him use emergency powers. And look, we are not far from where Canada is right now.
I don't know about that.
We're another. Look at what's happening with January 6th. Look at all the stuff that they. In fact, for Biden's State of the Union, they are actually putting back up the fence barriers.
Well, no, they put
around
back,
the Capitol.
They put back the fence barriers because the deep state is frightened that we ourselves will have some form of convoy coming to D.C. for his speech. Hence why it's up there. I think what people are concerned the most about is that they don't want to see what happened in Canada happen here. And I don't think it's going to happen because we have out of the almost every state is going to be removing its COVID-19 restrictions by the time March 1st comes around. So really, there's really no point of protesting. Oh, how convenient that all these things are coming away now that there's an election on its way.
Right. Yeah.
I will say this. I think what Canada has done proves the point that freedom here is not the same as freedom around the world. I am shocked that the tyranny in Canada was as bad as it was. It also proves the point that white people do this to themselves all the time.
Well, and I thought Canada in many ways was kind of like a carbon copy of the United States. It's like, in fact, there's people trying to, of course, diminish the intelligence of the truckers in Canada, saying that there were truckers there asking to protect their First Amendment right. Well, the First Amendment in Canada has nothing to do with free speech.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. A lot of people on both sides thought that Canada and the United States were very similar when it comes to their constitutional rights, and Canada does not have the same thing. The absolute tyranny that's happening in Canada is so surprising. If you donated to these organizations, they're now trying to dox you and remove you from your own financial situation. So then you have your own problems when it comes to being able to bank. I mean,
and now the truckers' families, in some cases, their bank accounts are being frozen. So now the families are suffering because maybe the father or the brother or somebody is involved in these protests. I mean, again, this is some authoritarian BS.
Yeah, and of course,
to the worst degree.
And of course, Trudeau says now that the truck blockade has been removed from Ottawa, one, that there needs to be national healing, but two, they need to keep the emergency powers for the time being to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And again, I think this is going to piss off a lot more Canadians than really thought, because everyone's going to know someone that's getting touched by this. And I don't know why the Canadians weren't more willing to fight for their kind of their speech, because again, the government is supposed to be representing the people. If the people of Canada don't want to get up and fight for that, then it is fine. Become a tyranny country, and now you're going to have people that say, "Oh, Canada is better than the United States." No, you see what happens. At least here in the States, you were able to protest. You're not able to invade the Capitol building.
Well, you know what's coming next, just like what happened with the January 6th insurrection, is again, because they have these emergency powers, the Canadian government is now going to find out who all these people were. Yeah. Because they have serial numbers, license plates, they have pictures, they have video, and they're going to launch investigations into all these people. They're going to incarcerate them, and they're going to try to charge them with crimes.
I'm saddened by our brethren up north, but this makes the point that America is one of the freest countries in the world, and this proves the point that a lot of people are just ignorant when it comes to what their definition of freedom is. The show,
and all this over a flu, over a freaking over a bad flu.
Again, I completely understand what you're saying, and that's why I don't think that the convoy will happen here, because all of these blue counties and blue states are removing their mandates. We're on the verge of having schools no longer be required in other parts of the country not to have a mask. And again, as a Floridian, as someone that lives in Tampa, Florida, how long has it been since you had to put a mask on?
Gosh,
it's been a while. Maybe at Disney when you go inside, but even then, someone doesn't really care. Other parts of the country, they're still eating outside because they're not allowed to eat inside. New York had still some of the hardest restrictions there, and they just now got rid of it.
Tons of kids still having to wear masks at school.
You had the Super Bowl was the most hypocritical thing I'd ever seen in my life. Yeah. The entire arena, no one is wearing a mask, but a mile down the street on a youth football team, everyone has to wear a mask, an outdoor football game. Yeah. This is ludicrous.
And indoor, mind you, SoFi Stadium is a closed, closed stadium.
Yeah, and yet everyone, from the mayor to the governor, everyone there was not wearing a mask.
Right.
But you know what? It's perfectly fine for the rich, wealthy, and elites to be not wearing a mask. But you have Jonny or you have Jessica trying to not trying not to hyperventilate when they're playing soccer in an indoor arena. Like, this is insane.
Yeah, or even outdoors. I mean, which is the most ludicrous, because again, we learned, thanks BLM, that nobody can actually contract coronavirus outdoors. There are 0 cases linked to outdoor activities and COVID.
But they don't care. They do not care. They don't want to give up their power. They don't want to give up what's going on. I mean, something that just happened today was that the infectious control has been taking
CDC.
The CDC had been taking information and data, and they released some of it, but they didn't release any data for anyone under the age of 45.
Right.
Are you kidding me? So yeah, I get it. Yeah, your data shows that people.
Well, they had to skew the numbers.
They had to, and that's one of the more bigger things that people are going to start talking about tomorrow. Is that the data that they have had this whole time?
Yeah.
They didn't release it.
Well, Trudeau comes out and says, because of course they had to have the vote on the emergency powers, and he goes, "Well, if you vote no, you're voting. Your vote means that you don't trust the government." He goes, "Yeah, exactly. That's damn right."
It's an American's job not to trust the government. I don't trust you.
And that's the problem. I
barely trust my teachers. Like, I don't trust you.
In a way, I think this has been a great awakening of sorts, because people have realized not only with their federal government, but that they can't even trust their local government. They can't trust their school districts. Okay, don't trust any of them. Be skeptical of all of them.
And that's good. It's healthy to be skeptical of your government, to have that question of your leaders. And the fact that some of these school boards had become tyrannies unto themselves and then get upset when they get questioned. Bitch, you are an elected official. You can't be mad at that. Oh, you have pictures, people talking about what happened in Virginia and some other school districts. That's your job. Your job, because you were elected by the people.
Yep.
I'm sorry if it's been cushy for the last few years, but now you actually have to earn your keep. Get out of office. Leave me alone. This is so annoying. Right. I will say this. One of the most upsetting, as a conservative, the most upsetting thing happened a few years ago with the release of that new TV show called The Newsroom. And they were supposed to be like the new West Wing and everything. And I love the West Wing. We rewatch it every election cycle. But they were like, oh, the Newsroom is going to be the new thing. And so the first episode, they talk about how freedom is everyone has freedom. Canada has freedom. Norway has. All these people have freedom, freedom, freedom. You're not special because you have freedom. And now look at it.
Right.
Now look at what happens in reality with freedom. Yeah. And I think that's something that people are going to talk about for generations
when
to come.
When the crap hits the fan, who's really got it?
I know for at least
not Australia.
Not New Zealand.
Not New Zealand. Not Canada.
Not Greece.
Yeah.
And again, it shows you how protected we are as a society when it comes to our constitutional rights, which we should fight for our entire lives.
Yeah.
I might not agree with you, but like hell, I'll let someone silence you.
Right. Because
they could silence me. And that's what some of my favorite conversations is with people from the left, because they're at least willing to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And we don't agree on anything, but at least we're allowed to have the conversation and we're at least able to see where we're coming from.
All right, let's bring in Hector, who's hanging out with us on Clubhouse. Again, if you'd like to join us on Clubhouse on Monday nights, you can search the yard sign. You can also follow me, Jonny Torres. Turn on your notifications so when we start the room, you can join us and jump into tonight's conversation as Hector's already done earlier tonight. I know he wanted to jump in here about Canada, and so Hector, does Canada come back from this? Is this a genie that can be put back in the bottle, or are we going to see things get worse before they get better?
And I think they're going to put the genie back in the bottle. Canada's done it before, back in the 70s with the Québécois movement, which for those that aren't educated about what Québécois is, it was a movement by native people from Quebec to form their own republic. And so the Canadian government back in the 70s imposed these emergency powers as they did last week, and they sent out the Canadian Army, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which are also known as the Mounties, to round up these armed Québécois insurgents And from there came the modern document, if you will, that determines how Canada politically is run, which I think is called the Creech Lake Agreement. Sign up in Ontario. But yeah, I think they're gonna put the genie back in the bottle. I'm be very interested to see what the polls are saying about Trudeau after these emergency powers and the whole kerfuffle with these protesters. But the thing too is you have to look at Canada from within a Canadian context. I mean, this is a country that is much more European than North American than what many Americans think of. Remember, Canada is a part of the Commonwealth. So was Australia, who was very draconian with COVID. So was New Zealand, who was very draconian with COVID. I mean, these people are influenced by British legal traditions. And in Britain, I mean, you go to London. London is, before, up until recently when Shanghai took over London, for being the most watched city in the world. I mean, you have literally tens of thousands of cameras on the streets of London. So, the modern British legal tradition allows for the implementation of a security state. So what happened in Canada with COVID and all that, and how they're going to handle these protesters, it's just not surprising. But it also goes to show that, although Canadians and Americans are very similar, there are cultural differences, especially when it comes to politics and the relations between the people and and its government.
Well, I think what you're seeing now is just a breakdown in what the social contract was for the Canadian people to its government. I agree with you. I think they are much more European than Americans when it comes to the West, and I do think that they'll figure out a way to put it back in the bottle. It's sad to see that the people of Canada are not able to have the freedoms that you would expect from a Western nation, and it's sad to see it. I think Trudeau internationally has been condemned fervently, being compared to a tyrant, dictator, and it's very sad to see what's happening. There was a meme.
Well, because we know that that's what he's aspired to.
Correct, and I think there was a meme today that shows a Canadian waving the flag and the police going to jump him. And he's like, guys, I'm here supporting the Olympics. They missed it. Canadians did a horrible job in the Olympics this cycle. It's pretty bad what's happening to them. I know I think that's the only benefit that they got this time around.
But Trudeau's gonna act the way he does because he is the child of one of the most important prime ministers in Canadian history.
Okay, thank you so much, Hector, for being on the call. Let's wrap it up. Literally, that's what Fidel Castro said in this situation, and let's move it on from there. We have no evidence to prove that Trudeau is related in any way to Fidel Castro.
I demand a DNA test.
That's never
Thank you, Hector, for joining us on Clubhouse, as you always do, and for keeping us straight here on the yard sign. I'm your host, Jonny Torres. With me, as always, Anibal David Cabrera. We appreciate you for watching, listening, wherever you may be doing so. And we're going to go ahead and give Anibal, because I can see him patiently waiting to do one last thing.
Really? You're going to let me do this?
You better hurry up before I change my mind.
Well, as I'm thinking of what I was going to say. At the moment, French troops have officially removed themselves from the Mali the Mali peninsula. It's something that has been dealing with for the last 8 years when it comes to foreign troops in Mali. I think it's something that needed to happen a lot sooner than before. The government is extremely corrupt, but now that we see what's happening on the African coast, we'll be able to see what the natives actually do now that they have full control of their country again. France removing its troops because they could not get a consensus when it comes to the government on hand in the pushback of Muslim fundamentalists. And that's what I'm watching, Johnny.
All right. For me, I'll just make it the...
I'm sorry. The producer wants me to keep on talking. I can talk about inflation for the next hour. I mean, this can happen. It doesn't have to be... I'm not even on camera. This could happen. You want to talk about inflation?
No.
Do you want to talk about how your comments earlier were very anti-business?
No, they're not anti-communist. I think the company should strike a balance, between profits and again, some sort of corporate responsibility. But anyways, my one last thing was going to actually be about Russia getting ready to approve crypto coin as an official currency. I think that's going to put the pressure on the developed countries to do the same. Here, obviously, they're going to figure out how to regulate it and tax it before they can do such a thing. But obviously, this is one more way for Russia to get involved and stay relevant in the global market. And and of course they're going to test all kinds of things like money laundering and and other ways to funnel money
Don't know what you're talking about, Tony.
into illegitimate organizations. And anyways,
we are a legitimate Jamaican bakery.
Oh God. On that note, we appreciate you for watching every Monday night, 7 o'clock. It's the Yard Sign. Thank you again to Anibal, David Cabrera, and we hope to see you back here next week. Don't forget to download the audio version of the podcast at the Tech Overlords at Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and Samsung podcast platforms. We'll see you next week, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.